Yeah, that's that we put that visualization together and wanted to kind of have something that was just easy to kind of just take a look at and kind of get a good idea. And I thought that was a nice, concise way to kind of put it together.
Yeah. And then you have something like, for example, DYDX, right? DYDX, they were, I think, on top of Starknet, right? Which is a scaling solution on top of Ethereum. But they moved away now, and they're going to spin up their own Cosmos chain. So can you walk us through a little bit why you think they did this, and how this would have? Do you think, for example, because Celestia is still not in mainnet, right? It's still a couple of months out. Do you think if Celestia would be out there, that this would be an even better solution for them?
So I hate to say like better or worse. And in fact, I think it's all about just trade-offs. So I guess you could look at all the trade-offs and say, okay, this is better or this is better. But like it makes sense because like obviously we don't even have our mainnet launched. But even if we did, I still think that there is less of a concept of us saying this is better or this is worth, and more about, okay, this is how this works. This is how this other option works. Here are the trade-offs, and for your particular use case, you should choose what works best for you. You know, and I think that's kind of the direction that we should be more focused on around. Having these types of discussions. Now, if you want to know like why they decided to move that direction, I mean, one of the things they spoke about a lot was scalability. They just were not being able to handle the number of transactions that they needed to per second. You also saw what happened with Ethereum there was an NFT drop a few months ago where I think it was the Bored Ape Yacht Club. They released like a new NFT, and like everyone's shilling like L2s on an Ethereum, right? And it's fun because they are offering better scalability and they'll get better and better like as we move forward. But one of the things that we need in order to, again, onboard the next 100 million or billion people is we need a very, very low cost execution environment. And we also need it to be, I would say, accessible in the sense that like most people are going to not want to have to worry about how much they pay per transaction today versus tomorrow. So what happened during that NFT drop was like everyone's saying, oh, L2s are where it's at. But if you end up seeing an increase of throughput on the layer one, on the settlement layer below it, then the fees for everything up there on top of it actually rise. So we saw L2s that were a few cents to maybe 50 cents per transaction bump up to the $50 to $100 per transaction because of the increased throughput on the L1. Now, to me, that presented such a massive problem that it made me kind of reconsider my entire like view of like where we were headed with the scalability solutions, because like what we need is a consistent cost system. Like we should not have to, and if we can't be completely consistent, which is probably not going to happen, we need to be somewhat consistent. Like we can't expect someone to transact in another part of the world where like what we need are these like 50 cent, $1 use cases where I can buy a cup of coffee. And if your transaction fee is going to be equal to that or even close to it, at the end of the day, we need less than 1 penny transactions, and we need that to be regardless of the scale of usage. So, so taking a step back from that, some of the innovations and things that are happening that are kind of like being implemented not only in Celestia, but in the industry as a whole, kind of being, I would say, regarded, and probably we're going to see a lot of other like similar implementations kind of address that. And I think one of the core innovations was the paper that was written by Mustafa and Vitalik around data availability sampling and I guess it's erasure coding around how you might be able to increase block size without I would say increasing block size and increasing throughput without reducing decentralization, and also being able to kind of just have a lower cost and more consistent cost per transaction.
Yeah.